Let me yank you into the cockpit of a German BF-109 on October 14, 1943, what the Americans would later call Black Thursday. The sky over Schweinfurt is a mess of smoke and fire. Lieutenant Heinz Knoke grins as he lines up his sights on a B-17 Flying Fortress. The big American bomber is lumbering along, no fighter escorts in sight, just like all the others lately. "Look at that iron coffin," he says into his radio, laughing. "They think those machine guns will save M. We'll pick M off one by one." He pulls the trigger. His 20mm cannons tear into the B-17's left wing. Fuel sprays out, then catches fire. Knoke watches as the bomber tilts, spins, and crashes into a field below. He counts 3 more B-17s going down in the next 10 minutes. The Luftwaffe pilots are whooping over the radio, "This is easy." That day, 60 American bombers get shot down. 600 crewmen die or get captured. Back at German airfields, pilots toast with beer. They joke about the suicidal Americans, sending bombers deep into Germany without escorts, like lambs to the slaughter. Adolf Galland, the Luftwaffe's top fighter general, tells his men, "These Americans don't understand air war. Their bombers are slow, their fighters can't reach Berlin. We'll keep shooting them down until they stop coming." What Galland and Knoke didn't know: their laughter would die in just 5 months. Because a plane was about to show up, one that could fly 1,100 miles round trip to Berlin, outrun German fighters, and turn the sky from Nazi blue to American gray. That plane? The P-51 Mustang. And this is how it turned the tide of World War II's air war, from a massacre of American bombers to the end of German air superiority. First, let's get why those 1943 bomber raids were such a disaster. The U.S. Army Air Forces had a plan: bomb Germany's factories, planes, tanks, oil, into rubble. But there was a problem: their bombers couldn't fly to Berlin and back with fighter escorts. The fighters they had? P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings. Good planes, but they had short legs. The P-47 could only fly 400 miles before it needed fuel, enough to get to the German border, but not past it. The P-38 did a little better, 600 miles, but still not enough to reach Berlin. So here's what happened: bombers would take off from England, fly to Germany, and for the first hour or two, P-47s would fly with them. Then the escorts would turn back, low on fuel. And that's when the Luftwaffe pounced, like wolves on a herd of cattle. By October 1943, the numbers were brutal. In just 3 months, the U.S. lost 1,700 bombers. 6,000 crewmen were dead, captured, or missing. Pilots started calling the missions one-way tickets. A B-17 gunner named Joe Miller wrote in his diary, "We fly into Germany, and the escorts leave. Then the sky fills with BF-109s. You can hear the cannons hit the plane. You just wait, will this be the one that takes you down?" The Germans knew they had the upper hand. Knoke, the BF-109 pilot, later wrote, "We'd see the American bombers coming, no escorts, and we'd smile. They were easy targets. We'd fly circles around them, pick off the stragglers, and be back at base for lunch." Galland even told Hitler, "If the Americans keep sending unescorted bombers, we'll destroy their air force by next spring." Hitler nodded. He was counting on it. The Luftwaffe was his last line of defense against the Allies. If they could stop the bombers, Germany could keep making weapons. Keep fighting. But the Americans weren't done. They had a secret weapon in the works, one that would change everything. Let's talk about how the P-51 Mustang went from a meh plane to a war winner. It started back in 1940, when the British asked American companies to build a fighter for them. North American Aviation, a company that mostly built trainers, said, "We can do better than your design." They built the first P-51 in just 120 days. At first, the Mustang was okay, but not great. It had an American Allison engine, good at low altitude, but useless above 15,000 feet. German fighters would just climb higher, then dive down on the P-51s. The British used them for ground attacks, not air-to-air combat. Then, in 1942, a British engineer had an idea: what if we put a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine in it? The Merlin was the same engine that powered the Spitfire, fast, powerful, and great at high altitude. North Americans said, let's try it. They swapped the Allison for a Merlin 61, added a bigger radiator, and tweaked the wings. The result? A plane that could fly 437 miles per hour, faster than a BF-109. It could climb to 41,000 feet, higher than any German fighter. And with a 108-gallon drop tank under each wing, it could fly 850 miles, enough to escort bombers to Berlin and back. But here's the thing, the U.S. Army Air Forces almost didn't use it. Generals were stuck on the P-47, they liked its armor, its big guns. They thought the Mustang was too fragile. A colonel named Jimmy Doolittle, yes, the same guy who led the Doolittle raid on Tokyo, said, give the Mustang a chance. It's the only plane that can take us to Berlin. Doolittle got his way. In December 1943, the first P-51 BS arrived in England. Pilots climbed into them, fired up the Merlin engines, and grinned. Chuck Yeager, who later broke the sound barrier, said, the first time I flew the Mustang, I knew it was special. It handled like a sports car. The Merlin purred, you could feel the power. Bud Anderson, another P-51 ace, added, we'd flown P-47s before, they were like trucks. The Mustang? It was a race car. You could outturn a BF-109, outclimb a FW-190. Finally, we had a plane that could fight the Germans on their turf. Now, let's fast forward to March 4, 1944. The sky over England is clear, cold. 119 B-17s are lined up on the runway at Thorpe Abbott's airfield. Their mission, bomb Berlin, for the first time with full fighter escorts. Leading the escorts, 148 P-51 Mustangs, including Yeager's and Anderson's planes. Yeager adjusts his oxygen mask, checks his fuel gauges. Today's the day we show the Germans what we've got, he says over the radio. The bombers take off first, then the Mustangs. They climb to 30,000 feet, where the air is thin and cold. For 2 hours, they fly east, toward Germany. Yeager scans the sky, looking for BF-109s. He remembers his last mission, in a P-47, when he had to turn back at the German border. This time, we're not turning back, he thinks. At 10:15 a.m., they cross into Germany. No German fighters yet. Then, at 10:30, Yeager sees them, dots in the distance, getting bigger. Bandits at 10 o'clock, he yells. 80 BF-109s and FW-190s are coming right at them. Knoke is in one of the BF-109s. He sees the Mustangs and freezes. What are those doing here, he thinks. They should have turned back by now. The Germans attack, diving at the bombers, just like they always do. But this time, the Mustangs meet them head-on. Yeager dives after a BF-109, lines up his sights, and pulls the trigger. His .50 caliber machine guns tear into the German plane's engine. The BF-109 catches fire, spins down. Got one. Yeager yells. Anderson is right behind him, chasing a FW-190. The German pilot tries to outturn him, but the Mustang is faster. Anderson fires, hits the FW-190's wing. The plane breaks apart. The Germans are shocked. They're used to fighting unescorted bombers, now they're fighting fighters that can match them, even beat them. Knoke tries to attack a B-17, but a Mustang dives at him. He pulls up, barely avoiding the fire. These planes are everywhere, he says into his radio, panic in his voice. By the time the bombers reach Berlin, the sky is a chaos of dogfights. But the Mustangs are holding their own. For every American plane shot down, 11 German planes go down, an 11-to-1 kill ratio. The bombers hit their target, Berlin's aircraft factories, then turn for home. On the way back, Yeager spots a BF-109 trying to sneak up on a B-17. He chases it, fires, and the German plane crashes into a field. "That's two," he says. When they land back in England, the pilots cheer. Only 3 bombers were lost, compared to 60 on Black Thursday. 15 German fighters were shot down. Yeager takes off his flight suit, his hands shaking from adrenaline. "We did it," he says to Anderson. "We took bombers to Berlin and brought most of them back." Back in Germany, Knoke sits in his BF-109, staring at the damage, bullet holes in his wing. "That was different," he says to his crew chief. "Those Mustangs, they're not like the other American fighters. We can't outrun them. We can't outclimb them. What do we do now?" Galland gets the report that night, 15 fighters lost, only 3 American bombers down. He throws his coffee cup against the wall. "This changes everything," he says. "The Americans have a plane that can reach Berlin. We can't stop them anymore." Over the next few months, the Mustangs keep coming. In April 1944, the U.S. launches, Big Week, 6 days of non-stop bombing raids on German aircraft factories. Every mission has P-51 escorts. The Luftwaffe throws everything they have at them, 2,000 fighters, but they're no match. By the end of Big Week, the Germans have lost 600 fighters. Their factories are in ruins, they can only build 200 fighters a month now, down from 800. The Mustangs are everywhere. They fly Escort to Berlin, to Hamburg, to Munich. They strafe German airfields, destroying planes on the ground. They even attack German trains and tanks, anything to stop the war machine. Knoke flies his last mission in June 1944. He's sent to intercept a bomber raid near Paris. He sees 200 Mustangs ahead. There's no point, he thinks. He turns his BF-109 around and flies back to base. That night, he writes in his diary, "The sky belongs to the Americans now. The Mustang has killed the Luftwaffe." D-Day, June 6, 1944, proves it. 2,400 P-51s fly over Normandy, keeping the sky clear of German fighters. Not a single German plane reaches the landing beaches. American troops pour ashore, safe from air attacks. General Dwight Eisenhower later said, "Without the P-51, D-Day might not have succeeded. It gave us the air superiority we needed to win." By 1945, the Luftwaffe is gone. Most of their pilots are dead or captured. Their planes are in pieces. Galland is fired by Hitler for failing to stop the Mustangs. He later said, "The P-51 was the best fighter of the war. It didn't just defeat our planes, it defeated our will to fight. We knew we couldn't win once those Mustangs started flying to Berlin." The numbers tell the whole story. 15,486 P-51 Mustangs were built during the war, more than any other American fighter. Mustangs shot down 4,950 enemy planes, more than any other Allied fighter. The 11-to-1 kill ratio meant for every Mustang lost, 11 German planes went down. By April 1945, the Luftwaffe could only fly 50 missions a day, down from 3,000 in 1943. But the Mustang's legacy isn't just in the numbers. It's in the way it changed air warfare forever. Before the P-51, bombers flew alone, sitting ducks. After the P-51, every bomber mission had escorts. The idea of fighter escorts for bombers became a rule, one that's still used today. And it's in what it symbolized, democracy's industrial might. The P-51 was a team effort, American design, British engine, mass-produced in U.S. factories, Ford built 5,500 Mustangs alone. Germany, with its totalitarian regime, couldn't keep up. They wasted resources on useless, super weapons, like the V-2 rocket, instead of building better fighters. The Mustang proved that a free country, working together, could outproduce and outfight a dictatorship. After the war, the P-51 didn't disappear. It flew in the Korean War, fighting alongside jet fighters. It became a racing plane. Pilots flew Mustangs in air races for decades. Today, hundreds of Mustangs are still flying, restored by enthusiasts, a reminder of the plane that turned the tide of the air war. Chuck Yeager flew Mustangs until the end of the war. He later said, "I flew a lot of planes in my life, but the P-51 was my favorite. It wasn't just metal and engines, it was a friend. It kept me alive, kept my buddies alive. It took us to Berlin and back. That's something you never forget." Heinz Knoke, the German pilot who once laughed at American bombers, wrote in his memoir, "The Mustang taught me a lesson. Never underestimate your enemy. We thought the Americans were weak, that their bombers were easy targets. We were wrong. The Mustang showed us what a free country can do when it puts its mind to it." So the next time you see a P-51 Mustang, at an air show, in a museum, remember this: it wasn't just a plane. It was a game changer. It turned laughter into silence, defeat into victory, and a losing air war into a win that helped end World War II. It's a reminder that sometimes, the thing that wins a war isn't a big tank or a powerful bomb. It's a plane, built by workers, flown by brave pilots, that can fly farther, faster, and fight harder than the enemy. And it's a reminder that freedom, when paired with ingenuity and hard work, can overcome even the most powerful dictatorship. That's the story of the P-51 Mustang. A plane that made the Germans stop laughing, and start running.